So yesterday there was a big discovery about the so-called Cheddar Man. Now, Cheddar Man, of course, is a fossilized human skeleton that was found inside of Gough's cave. I think that's the correct pronunciation. You guys can correct me if I want. Gough's cave. I looked it up earlier. I swear to God, I just forgot how to pronounce it. But look, the reason that they call him the Cheddar Man is not because he was made of cheese. I think that's fairly obvious. No, it's because where they found him was inside of Cheddar Gorge. Now, Cheddar Gorge is located somewhere around Somerset, England. So, okay. Now, they find this near-complete skeleton about a century ago, back in 1903. So they find out that it's over 10,000 years old, which means he's one of the first of the Britons. So, now, a lot of people assume that, hey, he probably looks a lot like modern Britons, right? So they tested his DNA. They figured out a way to test DNA. Yes, they can do that now. Revolutionary new techniques and technology and all that. And when they tested his DNA, surprise, he ain't white. He don't look like modern Britons. In fact, according to the DNA analysis, the first modern Britons, who lived about 10,000 years ago, had dark to black skin, dark curly hair, and blue eyes. Well, that's interesting, blue eyes. According to The Guardian, the team homed in on genes known to be linked to skin color, hair color, and texture, and eye color. For skin tone, there are a handful of genetic variants linked to reduced pigmentation, including some that are very widespread in European populations today. So again, those genes will get out through, obviously, reproduction. And so you spread those genes around, and the genes of Cheddar Man are actually in a decent amount of the population of modern Britons today. Fascinating. Now, Cheddar Man had ancestral versions of all these genes, strongly suggesting that he would have had dark to black skin tone, but combined with blue eyes. So it's kind of amazing what we can do with science, right? We can take DNA samples, we can examine the genes, and find not only where people originated, but their family lines, family trees, what they look like. We can even extrapolate from that information what kind of things that they ate and what kind of things that they did. Science is fucking awesome. I love it. Now, science is awesome, in my opinion, but if you're a racist, you might not be much of a fan of science. Now, this news has likely made you very, very upset if you are a racist. And I'll have examples of that, but first, the results pointed to a Middle Eastern origin for Cheddar Man, suggesting that his ancestors would have left Africa, moved into the Middle East, and then later headed west into Europe, before eventually crossing the ancient land bridge called Doggerland, which connected Britain to continental Europe. Today, about 10% of white British ancestry can be linked to this ancient population. But how can black people suddenly become white people? And so that's one of the hang-ups that racists have. Black people just can't become white people. Well, apparently, yes, they can. Scientists believe that the populations living in Europe became lighter-skinned over time because pale skin absorbs more sunlight, which is required to produce enough vitamin D. The latest findings suggest pale skin may have emerged later, possibly when the advent of farming meant people were obtaining less vitamin D through dietary sources like oily fish. So that's how. Yeah, it's called science, bitch. Now, of course, this irritates the racists because they hate the idea that some of their DNA might actually come from black or brown people. In fact, I want to read some of the comments here from the Daily Mail comment section. So, this is fun. Now, one of them says, sounds all too convenient and completely unprovable without a time machine. So, where did all the white people come from? We'll never know unless you have a time machine. Somebody get me the DeLorean. Imagine somebody down in the future creates a time machine, takes one of these idiots back in time, and says, look, black people, happy? Something tells me they're not going to be happy, no matter what happens. Another comment. Absolute nonsense. It takes longer than 10,000 years to be white. And you would know how? Where's your doctorate? Where's the research on that one? I'd love to see it. Oh, it takes over 10,000 years to be white. There's more. So they go away from being incredulous at the science and into, of course, SPC culture. Quote, political correctness gone mad. No way this is true. It's PC gone mad. Now, another commenter asked an interesting question. They asked, what's to say that that person was not a foreign visitor? Say he was just on vacation. That's all. He was visiting and then died in the cave. I don't think so. That wouldn't explain how 10% of all modern Britons have this person's DNA. Sorry. He must have been really, really busy on holiday. If you know what I'm saying. Ridiculous. Now here's another. This one's great. I'm going to read this verbatim. So be prepared for the wrong words. He says, I think it's likely for him to be lighter skinned given no sun in that, but 10,000 years ago, am not sure how much sun there is. He just am not sure how much sun there was 10,000 years ago. He's just asking a question. He's just trying to figure this whole thing out. If there was enough sun back 10,000 years ago. Oh, it's great. So now it goes from funny, stupid, to full-blown conspiracy. Now, one comment said, isn't it interesting, and I believe this was a tweet, isn't it interesting that all this bullshit about Cheddar Man comes out just after a number of stories revealed that ancient Egyptians were white Europeans and that the out-of-Africa theory is essentially BS? This couldn't be possibly politically motivated, could it? It's politics, man. Really? You not know that Egypt is part of Africa? Just saying. And look, yeah, Egypt is connected to the Middle East, obviously. So yes, there's some intermixing. And look, Egyptians, they were not white Europeans, but that doesn't mean that they were black either. That's what the story. That's where the study actually says. It's actually a little bit more complicated. It turns out people in southern Egypt, which is more towards the center, obviously, the middle and center. This is southern Egypt. Sorry, I was right about that. They actually had more sub-Saharan DNA, more Nubian DNA, right? Now there were people in northern and middle Egypt. They actually had the closest genetic relatives of Neolithic and Bronze Age populations of the Near East, Anatolia, and Eastern Mediterranean Europeans. So that's fascinating, actually, and it kind of shows you how the different parts, southern and northern Egypt, actually had a little bit more mixing. Like, for example, the people in southern Egypt mixed more with people in Central Africa, whereas, as I said, northern and middle Egyptians, and we're talking about ancient Egyptians here, mixed with more of people from the Middle East, and also some areas of, the Mediterranean. So that's fascinating, right? Now, none of that actually disproves the fact that human beings came out of Africa. Just human beings also came out of Africa and settled in the Mediterranean. And they originally were also not white. Now, finally, one comment here, and again, I love this. Why do I think this is made up to push a certain agenda? I'm not a DNA expert, but from having watched documentaries, it's often not possible to extract DNA from such an old skeleton. Hey guys, I'm not a DNA expert or anything, but I did watch some documentaries. You know, that reminds me of the Best Western commercials. Hey, I'm not a doctor, but I did say it at Best Western yesterday. I think that was the commercial. Maybe I got the hotel wrong, but you get what I'm going at. So this guy who's watched documentaries, well, he's more of an expert than the experts. I see how that works. Unless, of course, all the experts are actually in on the conspiracy to make the black people into white people because political correctness and stuff. Wait, how stupid does that sound? That's ridiculous. Look, this kind of reminds me of white supremacists that are pissed off when they take DNA tests and find out there's a little bit of black in their gene pool. It kind of makes their snowflake melt. But let me show you what the experts actually say about this. Tom Booth, this is an archaeologist at the National History Museum who worked on this project, said, quote, "This really shows up that these imaginary racial categories that we have are really modern constructions or very recent constructions that are really not applicable to the past at all." Jon Diekman, computational biologist at the University College London, another member of the project's team, also said the connection the connection often drawn between Britishness and whiteness was not an immutable truth. It has always changed and will change. And it's a Holiday Inn Express. Sorry, I knew I got the hotel wrong. But look, all that aside, all joking aside, they're absolutely right. This whole, white people, white people in America, and, we're the best, and Britain was white first, and all that stuff. No, that's ridiculous. This is why I come to the conclusion that racists are the dumbest people on earth. If you can't tell that we are all pretty much the same, and that we all come from the same ancestors, you don't understand a damn thing. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.